TSN's Motoring 96 is brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality, always has, always will. And Midas, the way it should be.
Purchasing a car, I'll guarantee you it will be one of the worst investments you ever make. But then again, how many of us buy a car as an investment? It's strictly a necessity. But I will guarantee you something else also, that when you come here to purchase a car, you'll deal more than likely with a man, because that's the way it's been. But as we've seen on earlier programs of motoring, there's plenty of opportunity for women in this business. In fact, we recently met some women who are graduating from a course that was designed specifically for women interested in auto sales. And later on, we'll meet a couple of those ladies and see how life is in the real world. But first, are you getting tired of turning on the TV and receiving nothing but bad news? Me too. So let's begin this week's program with some good news. The popularity of NASCAR racing has exploded over the past 5 years, and so has the career of 24-year-old Jeff Gordon, seen here winning the inaugural Brickyard 400 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Along with Quaker State Motor Oil, DuPont is Gordon's major sponsor. To help celebrate DuPont's 40th anniversary in Ajax, Ontario, DuPont invited Jeff Gordon to the party, and he arrived with a special friend.
His name is Justin. He is 12 years old, and his wish was to meet Jeff Gordon. And because of this particular appearance of Jeff today with us, we decided to rent a limousine, put Justin into the limousine, take him to the airport, pick up Jeff, meet Jeff for the first time, and allow them 15-20 minutes to get comfortable with each other. And then later on, about 7 o'clock tonight, I'll make a formal announcement. And Jeff, at that time, is going to present a very special gift to Justin, which at this point, Justin does not know about. So it's going to be a very, very big surprise for this young man.
Justin's wish came true thanks to the Starlight Foundation, which grants wishes to seriously ill children. Justin suffers from systemic juvenile rheumatoid arthritis.
Well, he got sick about 3 years ago, and it's been pretty bad for him over the last 3 years. They haven't been able to cure him of what he has, and this has given him something to really look forward to and to have some hope. He actually didn't become nervous until I picked him up at school today. And then he got nervous, and he was a little leery what he was going to do and what he was going to say and what was going to happen. But once he met Jeff and they started talking, they're like old pals.
Sitting here beside Jeff Gordon signing autographs, and then you're pretty lucky guy, aren't you?
Yep.
What's it feel like?
It's pretty exciting, really.
So tell me what Jeff Gordon's like.
Pretty exciting. What do you mean pretty exciting, huh? It's just pretty exciting or real exciting?
Really exciting.
Okay, that's good.
What was the last question you asked?
So what's Jeff Gordon like?
He's a really nice guy, and I'm glad I could be his friend for a day, and hopefully I can meet him again some other time at another place.
That's the bonus. That's the treat for being able to come up here with DuPont is getting to meet kids like Justin, and it really just overwhelms you when you hear about someone that their wish is to meet you, and that you mean that much to them that they would actually write that and want to meet you. And he's a great kid. I've got to spend some time with him, and I think it makes you respect other people, and I think it makes you respect the position that you're in, especially the position I'm in. I'm very, very fortunate.
Tell us the surprise.
Are we allowed to tell you the surprise? Well, Justin is going to be getting his own go-kart, and DuPont has painted it up exactly the same as Jeff's race car. And he is going to be ecstatic because he's not expecting this. We keep telling him that it's going to be another month, and giving him great ideas about it, but he has no idea what's going to happen here today.
Justin, this is your go-kart, buddy. It's all yours. Painted up just like Mike DuPont 24 out there, and go out there and have some fun.
What's this mean to you both? I mean, what's a day in the life like for Justin? What is this?
It's just nice to see him excited,
I'm happy, very happy, because he just come out of the hospital almost a month ago now and had a relapse which set him back, and he was pretty down in the dumps. But this has come together so great for him that he's put that in the past now, I think. He's got something really good to look forward to now.
All right, looking good in the end.
This is the Suzuki Sidekick Sport, their largest offering to date. The question is it large merely because of the expanded dimensions, or is it that it gives them a legitimate contender in the hotly contested sport utility market? Power for the Sport comes from a long overdue 1.8 litre double overhead cam 16 valve motor that gives 120 horsepower and 114 pounds-feet of torque. Now, while these figures are not overly impressive, the response is certainly more than acceptable. Tromp the gas pedal and you move away and find fettle. Mid-range, the poke is not too bad either because the automatic tranny is only too willing to kick down and give you the needed power. It also comes with direct ignition. Now, this places individual coils directly over the spark plugs. The result is a better spark and consequently cleaner combustion. The Sport is offered with either a 5-speed manual box or a 4-speed auto. The latter features both normal and performance modes as well as an on-off switch for the overdrive. The two different modes change the upshift characteristics and therefore the feel of the vehicle. In the normal mode, the upshifts are forced early, which masks the true colours of the engine. For this reason, the performance mode is the only way to go. The overdrive switch cancels out the constant hunting between gears you normally find when you're in hilly terrain or off-road. Talk sport utility on motoring and you talk off-roading. Well, unfortunately with the Sidekick we're not going off-road. Now, it's got nothing to do with the four-wheel drive ability of this vehicle, rather it has to do with the selection of the tyres. What they've done is elected to put a highway type tyre on this vehicle. Now, whilst the tyres provide great wet traction and a quiet ride, if you want to do anything more than just a little bit of off-roading on a gravel road, you better forget it. Now, the moral of the story, if you want to upgrade the tyres, make sure you do it at the time of purchase because it's more cost effective. As for the off-roading, too bad because it looks kind of interesting back there. With the upgraded tyres, the Sport is actually quite proficient at off-roading. The shift from 2 to 4-wheel drive comes at the nudge of a lever, and thanks to the automatic lock-in hubs, it can be accomplished on the fly. The suspension features McPherson struts up front and a solid axle with lower trailing arms and an upper A-arm in the rear. While there is a stabilizer bar up front, it lacks one in the back. The ride comfort is, for the most part, comfortable. The only time it becomes a little unsettled is over washboard-type pavement. Under these circumstances, the Sport has a decidedly skittish feel to it. That said, the relatively low centre of gravity and seating position combine to give the truck a competent, confident feel. One of the concerns a lot of people express about vehicles like this Sidekick Sport is that they're going to roll over if they go around a corner too quickly. Well, excuse me, if you took an F1 car off-road, it's going to get stuck. As long as you drive these vehicles in an appropriate manner, they're as safe as anything else on the road. Stopping power is supplied by a disc drum setup that comes with standard anti-lock. The bonus is twofold. First, the pedal feel is strong and remarkably easy to modulate, and second, only when needed does the ABS intervene. In short, a well-designed and well-executed system. The cockpit of this Sport has been well thought through. The seats are comfortable, windows, locks and mirrors all very accessible. You can operate the levers on either side of the column with your hands on the wheel. Instrumentation, plain, simple, very effective. Great set of slide controls for the heater. Well, that dime tells you everything you need to know about the radio. It sounds great, but these buttons, man oh man, you need a magnifying glass to see them, never mind use them. With the back seat in the upright position, the Sport offers 535 litres of cargo capacity. Fold them down and tumble the whole lot forward and the figure jumps to 1274. In terms of size, the Sport version is 60mm wider and 95mm longer when compared to the base model. The main beneficiary of the expanded dimensions is the rear seat passenger. Now back here, loads of leg room, enough headroom for Shaq and the boys, although the only thing, only 2 seat belts, which limits this vehicle 4 seats. And that puts it at a slight disadvantage when compared to, say, the Explorer or the Cherokee. On the safety front, the Sport comes with dual airbags, standard ABS and child-proof rear door locks, although it does lack adjustable upper seatbelt anchors. Off the top, I posed a question: is the Sport a legitimate contender? The answer has to be yes. More power, more room, full-size spare with a real rim, and a price that ranges somewhere in the mid-20s. Now when you compare that to its immediate competition, that has to be considered somewhat of a bargain. It's time to say goodbye to our long-term Saturn, and a fond farewell it is. This little sedan is proof positive that a car does not have to be expensive to be fun. The base engine offers strong linear power, the beauty being that during the long-term test we averaged 39 miles per gallon. Now that is better than Transport Canada figures and much better than we expected. Now to the tail of the tape and all the final numbers. When it began 14 years ago, it was simply called the Great Race. Now sponsored by the software manufacturer Corel, this year's race will begin in Tacoma, Washington and finish in Toronto. It's a 4,000-mile journey that will travel through 13 states before arriving in Canada.
The movie The Great Race was the inspiration for the event. Best in the world competing in the Great Race. These folks are in old cars. They got a speedometer with no odometer. They've got no equipment. They've got a watch and a pencil and paper. That's it. The competition is measured to 1,000th of a second. Each day, the winning score over 400 miles will be like 8 seconds off a perfect time, 10 seconds off a perfect time. For the competitive people, it's a world-class competition. For the people that want to have a good time, for the adventure seekers, for the see the world the way it should be seen from behind the wheel of an old car, turn you into a celebrity for 2 weeks. America and Canada just roll out the red carpet in front of the cars, and people host lunch. They try to fix their cars for them. They give them gifts, and I mean, it's like nothing like being somebody. You know, it's that kind of a deal.
I'm not in the race. I wanted to, but what I'm doing, I'm in shine time with a '69 Volvo 122S, and we're looking forward to it. We'll all have fun being part and parcel of this Corel Great Race.
This year, $250,000 purse, and your old car is worth more money when you finish than it was before you started, because it's got credentials now. There we go. This is virtually an exact copy of a 1937 Buick Indy car. Call it the Corel Special. Just completed the car. It was all done by hand. Straight 8 overhead bow, wind-filled cam, running 4 Strongbird 2-barrel carburetors, getting about 250 horsepower. Car weighs around 2,300 pounds. So right now, the way it's geared, we can probably do between 125 and 130 miles an hour. Hit home. Old cars, vintage cars are art, you know, and a lot of them got locked up in museums, and it's like, you know, hang it on the wall and look at it, don't touch my car. And there's a whole different segment, a group of people out there like myself, got dirty fingernails, okay? We love to make them run. We love to get in them, and I love to smell exhaust. You know, I like gasoline. And rub a little bit on them, get some grease on them. We're gonna have some fun here, and that's what it's all about. I could care less about looking at cars. You know, living, breathing, doing it. That's what it's all about.
Our Midas Tip of the Week concerns tread wear indicators. When you take your vehicle in for professional servicing, we measure the remaining tread depth on your tires with a little unit like this, a tread depth gauge. But built into the base of every major groove in your tire is a little thing we refer to as a tread wear indicator. It's a little bar of rubber that extends completely across the tread from left to right in several positions around the tire. And when it becomes flush with the rest of the tread, that's an indication that the tire is completely worn out. However, it's a good idea to make periodic inspections of your tires to determine what the usable tread depth is, because there's a tremendous difference in vehicle handling in rain or snow on a tire that's 75 or 80% worn like this one versus this full depth brand new tire over here. In the dry, these tires will perform almost identical, but in rain or snow, a huge difference. Over here, there's an example of a tire with the tread wear indicators worn flush with the tread of the tire. That's an indication that the tire needs to be changed, but it's a good idea to make these periodic inspections to know where you are, because you can adjust your driving habits accordingly. That's your Midas Tip of the Week.
Well, as we mentioned earlier, the world of car sales is still dominated by men, yet dealers are on a constant lookout for more women to employ in their showrooms. Well, last year we met some women who had just completed a course designed specifically to prepare them for a career in this business. Well, this week we thought we'd drop in on a couple of the graduates and see how they're doing.
I got a job right away. Actually, at the graduation, I already knew that I'm going to start working the next Monday here at Township Vault in Oakville, and I've been here ever since. It was December 4th when I started, and it's been over 6 months, and I'm hanging in here.
In class, they said the hours would be long.
Well, that was one thing that turned out to be true. But when our customers need us to be here, we have to be here for them. But generally speaking, everybody who ends up buying a car from me, they are a happy customer.
Well, welcome to ABC Motors, Mr. McDonald. My name's Dennis Curtis, and I'm very pleased to have you at our dealership, Mr. McDonald. Nice to meet you, Dennis. Nice to meet you. So,
You were taught in class about knowing a car and explaining that knowledge to a potential customer. But is reality they just want at the best price sometimes?
That is reality, unfortunately. That price, it comes down to price. And a lot of people do like the person that they're dealing with, and they do want to deal with them, but a lot of times it does come down to the best price, which is difficult sometimes. Sometimes you lose a few and you gain a few. So from the classroom to the process, I find that it compares with what we did learn. There's a lot more to it here now that I'm in the dealership, and I hope to be in the business for a very long time.
Incidentally, that Women in Auto Sales course is still being offered. We'll give you a phone number at the end of the program if you'd like some more information. But now, let's head to the garage. Join Bill Gardner.
Brad, this week I want to talk about this insignificant little valve that we call a PCV valve. Now that stands for Positive Crankcase Ventilation Valve. And this little valve is responsible in a great deal for engine cleanliness, efficiency, and emission control to a certain extent. Now, the reason we need the PCV valve is because on any internal combustion gasoline engine, crankcase vapors that are quite combustible escape past the piston rings on every power stroke of the engine. They go down into the crankcase and they can contaminate the oil, and they're quite rich in fuel vapor, so they're quite combustible. By reintroducing them into the engine, we can gain some efficiency. By burning those vapors over again, we'll keep the engine oil cleaner and prevent one source of vehicle emissions. Now, we're going to show you on a V8 engine here today just how this system works and what kind of things can go wrong with it and the things to look for if you think you suspect a problem with that system. Here's the location of the PCV valve in this typical V8 engine, over here in the right side valve cover. The engine's idling. I'm going to pull the valve out of the cover and turn it up a little bit. Now, if I feel the bottom of the valve, I can feel manifold vacuum acting against the bottom of that PCV valve, and that's one quick test. Not the only one, by the way, but a quick test for your PCV valve. Now, the PCV valve is hooked up via this line over here that's about 7/16 of an inch diameter. It goes over here to the base of our throttle body or carburetor, depending on the fuel system we've got on the engine. And through this line, all those crankcase vapors are going to flow and be reintroduced or burned in the engine. Remember that those vapors are quite rich in fuel, so they're combustible and they're a source of emissions. Now, if we go over to the left side valve cover of this engine, you can see the hole where fresh air enters the crankcase ventilation system. Now, a piece of pipe goes into this hole and comes up over here to the air cleaner so that only filtered fresh air enters the system. It enters here, goes down through this valve cover, through the crankcase, and back up and out the PCV valve on the other side. Now, I've unplugged the PCV valve from the right side valve cover, and that white vapor that you see coming out of that hole is the combustible fuel-rich vapor that blows past the piston rings. And it's that vapor the PCV valve is going to collect, vacuum, or suck up and reburn in the engine. Now, if I plug the PCV valve back in, you'll quickly see that that vapor disappears. Now, another quick test for this system is to cover up this hole with the PCV valve connected. You cover it for about 20 seconds, and when you break off that hole, you should hear a rush of air. That tells you a couple of things. First of all, your PCV is working properly, And second of all, you've got a well-sealed engine. You don't have any leaking gaskets or seals in that engine. Now, there are some vehicles that don't use actual PCV valves, but they still have a PCV system or a crankcase ventilation system, and I'm thinking particularly of a lot of Ford Escorts and a lot of Jeep-built vehicles. They use a fixed orifice in place of the PCV valve. It's a pretty small opening, and it can easily clog up with those white vapors that I showed you. It can get restricted to the point where it won't work properly. And the first symptom that you'll get is an oily, sludgy, gooey deposit backing up into the air cleaner assembly. If you see that, have it checked right away and have the fixed orifice cleaned out. Or if you see it on a vehicle with a PCV valve, you've definitely got a problem in that PCV system, and you need to rectify it. If you're replacing one of these PCV valves, it's my recommendation that you get it from the vehicle manufacturer, because this isn't simply a piece of plumbing. A lot of guys tend to think of it as either a straight valve, a right angle, or a T-shape. I've heard people describe it as that. But in actual fact, there's a lot of different calibrations of valves that can fit any one given vehicle. So I recommend you get it from the dealer. Till next week, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 96.
Today's young people don't care as much about cars as we used to. I'll be back in a moment on Kenzies Corner.
Kenzies Corner with Jim Kenzie.
Are today's young people as enthusiastic about cars as they used to be? Well, the baby boomer generation will remember that the coolest kid in high school was the one with the coolest car. Chances are he worked on it, maybe even built it himself. And those people are today's scientists and engineers. Now, that level of technological enthusiasm is really no longer possible. Today's cars are so complicated, they baffle most professional mechanics, let alone high school kids. Today's junior genius is more likely to be hacking his way through the internet than trying to master the intricacies of a throttle linkage for a 4-barrel Holley carburetor. Still, all hope is not lost. When we come to high schools with cars like this 911 Porsche Turbo, it never fails to draw a crowd, as you can see. The best-looking cars in the parking lot, they belong to the students, not to the teachers. And the acquisition of a driver's license is still a vital rite of passage for most young people. My own 16-year-old daughter doesn't care about mechanical things. She's into ballet and art. But she's going through the driver training process now. We went out in a test session the other day in the 85 Vet. That's the Chevette, not the Corvette. And she couldn't wait to get behind the wheel. A big grin on her face. She said, "Why would anybody need drugs? I can drive." That's my daughter. So will there still be an enthusiast audience for Motoring 2020? You bet there will be. And if we're still alive, we'll be there producing it for you. I'm Jim Kenzie.
Well, there's a scene I think you'll see more of in the future, women selling cars. And we want to wish all our graduates much luck in their newfound career. And if you're interested in taking such a course, stick around, because in just a few moments, we'll give you that phone number I promised earlier. That's it for now, though. We'll see you next week for more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
PSN's Motoring 96 has been brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality, always has, always will, and Midas, the way it should be.